Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host Omar Khalid. But today is Friday the 26th of July 2024 and these are the stories that we will be highlighting during the course of the show. We will begin with Pakistan's balancing of its relations with China as well as with the United States of America. Now, Pakistan has ruled out the possibility of sacrificing its relationship with China for the sake of improved relations with the US. This has been said by the Foreign Office spokesperson yesterday, and she stressed that Pakistan doesn't believe in zero-sum relationships. For us, she said, relations with the US and relations with China are both important. She said, we do not believe in situations where relationships with one country can be sacrificed on the altar or on the altar of relations with another. How important is Pakistan's spectrum of relations, whether it comes to these two important countries, that the US and China? How important is it for Pakistan to also balance out this tangent of relations with these two countries? This is what we will be highlighting in our first segment. Our second story concerns the Palestine-Israel war that has entered its 294th day today. We will be highlighting Netanyahu's visit to the US, his meetings with Joe Biden, Kamala Harris and Trump as well, and of course what is happening in Gaza as we speak. A new wave of airstrikes by Israeli jets that has targeted the Gaza Strip, ambulances that are being targeted by the Israeli fighters, and all the agony that the Palestinians are going through, whether it be in the form of the violence, whether it be in the form of lack of food, water, health facilities, whether it be the constant to and fro that they are doing because of the Israeli military pushing them to move from one area to the other between Gaza and then to Rafah, from Rafah to Gaza, and so on. This and more will be discussed in our second segment. Then we are going to talk about the extreme heat epidemic that we are also seeing in Pakistan but also across the world. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres says that humanity is suffering from an extreme heat epidemic. The importance of the world to come together to do the needful as far as climate change is concerned is becoming more and more important with each passing day. Then we are going to talk about Olympics 2024, ladies and gentlemen, that are going to begin in Paris. The opening ceremony will be happening in like a few hours time in Paris, and of course the whole world is excited to have everybody together from the sports world, all the different countries, and of course Pakistan is also participating in these Olympics. Finally, we will be talking about the death anniversary of ibn-e-safi being observed today, the 44th death anniversary of fiction and detective writer, novelist and Urdu poet ibn-e-safi is being observed today. He was born on the 26th of July 1928 in Allahabad, and of course he started his publications, and as young adults we've all sometimes somehow read his publications, whether it be Jasusi Dunya, whether it be the Imran series and so on. He passed away on this very day in 1980. In Karachi. This is our lineup. Let's begin with our first, and that concerns Pakistan's diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China, with the United States of America, how Pakistan wants to balance these relations out, does not want to sacrifice the relationship with one country for the sake of another. This has recently been highlighted by our Foreign Office spokesperson. Now, to discuss that, we've been joined by two guests, one in the studios and one online. We've been joined by Jauhar Saleem Saab. He is no stranger to our shows and to PTV World. He is a former Foreign Secretary as well as the President of IRS. Thank you very much, Jauhar Saleem Saab, to have joined us. And online, we've been joined by Dr. Fazlur Rehman. He's the Director, Pakistan Institute of China Study. Thank you very much to have joined us. All right, let's begin with our first guest and our first question, Jauhar Saleem Saab. Pakistan rules out the possibility of sacrificing its relationship with China for the sake of improved relations with the US. Pakistan's Foreign Office spokesperson says Pakistan does not believe in zero-sum relationships. What is a zero-sum relationship for all our viewers who don't understand what it's all about, especially in the diplomatic realm? And what is Pakistan's stance and what has this stance been?
Yeah, it's very interesting. This is zero-sum is a concept which is very much used in international relations, although originally it was a game theory concept developed by an economist and a mathematician. But subsequently, it has acquired a much wider usage. In international relation terms, what it means is that the gain of one side should not be a loss of another. Now, in this particular situation, for instance, what it means is that if Pakistan supposedly gets closer to the US, that means that to an equal level, it will sort of, disassociate or sort of, lessen or, or decrease the level of its relationship with China. Now, that doesn't really happen. In diplomacy, most countries have relations with other countries who may not be having good relations with each other. For instance, US's relations with Pakistan and India. Now, US has great relations with India. They have had very close relations with Pakistan and still have with Pakistan as well. And Pakistan and India, as you know, they have been on sort of different sides, and they're conflicting sides, and they've been hostile to each other. But still, the US has been able to maintain good relations with both. And there's so many other examples of that, like Pakistan, for instance, maintained very good relations with both Saudi Arabia and Iran at a time when both those countries had pretty hostile relations. So in the same manner, when we talk about Pakistan's relations with the US and Pakistan's relations with China, what the spokesperson is saying here is that, if we get in some ways, and I think in this particular instance, she was talking about this because the question was about a $101 million aid bill for assistance bill for Pakistan. And it was in that context they asked, okay, if Pakistan is getting closer to the US, would it affect our relations with China? That was the basic point there. But first of all, this is a very small amount, and these type of bills, like this type of development cooperation has been happening between Pakistan and the US for a long, long time.
Exactly.
And in fact, this volume is much, much smaller than what we had witnessed in the past. And even if it was bigger, Pakistan has sizable development cooperation partnership with China. And in terms of economic relations, Pakistan's economic relations right now with China are perhaps of a larger magnitude compared to their economic relations with any other country. But still, let's see what the relative importance of the two countries for Pakistan is. China is what we call the all-weather strategic cooperative partner. We've been calling each other iron brothers, or sort of, it's an ironclad friendship, and there are lots of diplomatic parlances that have been used for that. They are our biggest trading partner by far, and they are our biggest investment partner by far again, Then again, in terms of defense relations, a very close relationship exists. In terms of strategic relationship, whether we mention the cooperation in international fora, or we mention it sort of, in terms of the issues both countries face with other countries, like for instance, Kashmir in Pakistan's, Jammu and Kashmir dispute in Pakistan's case, and Taiwan in China's case. There is an excellent cooperation in all these areas. And then scientific cooperation and educational cooperation, there's so many, it's a very multidimensional relationship. But at the same time, with the US as well, Pakistan has a very large trade. It's one of our largest trading partners. Perhaps our largest importer of Pakistani products. Then again, in the past, it has been one of the biggest investment cooperation partners with Pakistan. Still, many American companies, they have a history and they're still in Pakistan. Then again, in terms of defense relations, the very close relationship has existed between the two countries over the years, and there's still some segments of it. In strategic terms as well, Pakistan and the US have been cooperating in international fora, and they share many ideals, values, and aspirations. And then there's a big Pakistani diaspora in the US, and Pakistan gets one of its largest chunk of remittances from the US. So you see, both the relations are important in their own way.
Of course.
And it is, we should not see a conflict here.
Exactly. We need to see it in its own perspective. I think these are both different prisms, and these prisms need to be balanced out, as Pakistan has been doing that since quite some time. I'll come to you in a bit, but I have my guest online who's waiting patiently. Dr. Fazlur Rehman, thank you very much to have joined us. I know you're not in the country, so thank you very much to be a part of the show. Dr. Fazlur Rehman, our Foreign Office spokesperson says, for us, the relations with the US and relations with China are both important. We do not believe in situations where relationships with one country can be sacrificed on the altar of relations with another. How important has it been for Pakistan to balance these two tangents? What is Pakistan's diplomatic and strategic methodology in your point of view?
Well, actually, Pakistan for some time has been following a policy of maintaining good relations with all the major powers. And this policy has been very successful in the past, but I think it is increasingly becoming under pressure as the China-US strategic competition is increasing. And it is becoming increasingly difficult for Pakistan to maintain a very delicate and fine balance in its relations with both the countries. There is no doubt that both the countries are very important for Pakistan's national interest in terms of Pakistan's exports to US, Pakistan's economic relations with China, and China's economic assistance to Pakistan. So they are both sort of crucial partners for Pakistan. But at the same time, we have to also look at the geoeconomics and geopolitics of the region. These two are intertwined, and it's very difficult for any country to look at these two dynamics separately. And Pakistan is a very important country in this region, and having a good relationship with both the countries is important for its own national interest. But it's going to be difficult for us for the simple reason that both the major powers are pursuing different kind of philosophies in terms of their view of the world order, in terms of their view of the global issues and the things. On the one side, you see that there's a approach of unilateralism, hegemonism, alliance building, and on the other side there is an approach of global development initiative, global security initiative, global civilizational initiatives. So these are different philosophies, which are working at the same time in terms of seeking their relations and partnerships globally. So under such circumstances where there are competing, interests and competing philosophies, it's difficult for any country to, create kind of a very fine balance. Pakistan should, I think, look in terms of its long-term, strategic relationship. China is a neighboring country. We share a very long border with China. We have a history of excellent cooperative relationship. We are strategic partners, and we have stood by each other, in all eventualities. Whereas with the US, our relationship has been kind of a roller coaster relationship. There has been ups and downs. We have been put under sanctions. And at times, whenever our interests with the U.S. interests are the similar, there is a cooperation. Otherwise, Pakistan becomes marginalized in terms of U.S. policy interests in this region. So I think there is a need, that we have to really look into all the aspects of our relationship with both countries. Pakistan's export dependence on U.S. can be diversified. We have not really tried, and not put much effort into diversifying our exports to different destinations. Latin America is one, region. Africa is another region where we have not really, worked hard in terms of enhancing our exports. Southeast Asia, again, the entire region is under-tapped in terms of our exports. So one can always find some alternatives. But in terms of security, I think Pakistan's deep security interests are tied with China, and we have to look into all these aspects before, trying to create a fine balance. Fine balance is a very idealistic situation. Practically, it is going to be very difficult for Pakistan.
Well, but Dr. Fazlur Rehman, the thing is that Pakistan has been trying to, move forward with this fine balancing act as far as both China and the US is concerned. At least it's trying its level best, and that is what the policy of the government is. That is what the spokesperson of the Foreign Office has also reiterated. It's not the first time that this has been said. It has been said time and again. Whatever the issues or, the tilt of these two major powers might be, Pakistan's stance is more than clear. Now, you talked about the strategic environment of the region. You talked about how one country has been stood more than the other, how we've had ups and downs with that. But do you feel there is a possibility in a utopic sense of Pakistan strengthening its relations with the two without compromising on either relation?
Well, actually, we need not to really compromise on either relationship. Either or situation should not, be kind of a focus of our policy. We should try to, sort of maximize our advantage with both the countries in whatever way possibly we could. But at the same time, we should also, see that, the one power should not be undermining the interests of other power in the region, or especially vis-a-vis Pakistan. You see that China's policy is of non-interference into each other's affairs, whereas we see that, there is an intrusive policy approach of the U.S. in other countries' internal affairs. So these things are, all work at cross purposes. So we have to really understand the dynamics and try to find out a very fine balance. And political stability, economic viability, economic progress, development, all these issues are interrelated and intertwined as far as our foreign policy, our foreign relations are concerned. So we should be in a position where we can leverage our strengths in terms of sustaining our relations with both the powers, and that is going to be a challenge for Pakistani policymakers. And I think that we should come out of it, and we should try to balance out this relationship. But again, I would say that there is going to be a huge challenge in terms of balancing this relationship in a way that we can maintain or appease both the major powers who are working at cross purposes in this region.
All right. When it comes to challenges, I think diplomacy comes first. And Jauhar, Saleem Sahab, that is where I'd like to come to you. You talked about the 101 million assistance that the Biden administration has sought from the US Congress from Pakistan just a day back. And of course, there were remarks by a US diplomat that China is the past in terms of investment and we are the future, quote unquote. This is Donald Lu who said that. A very candid question. And I'm sure you'll give me a diplomatic answer. Was this aid being given, as a lot of analysts are saying, with the precondition that China's influence would be reduced in Pakistan? How can Pakistan convince both China and the US that their relationship with Pakistan is dear to it and it wants to continue in the same vein?
See, if that was the intention, then the bill would not have been $101 million because that is a very small amount. I don't think that was the intention. The intention of such bills is basically to show you that they still have an interest in a keen interest in maintaining relations with Pakistan. And like I said, in the past, the development cooperation between Pakistan and the US have been of a much bigger magnitude. But we also have to remember, in terms of what Khalid Sahab has said, see, that fine balance is not easy, of course, but then diplomacy is not easy. Diplomacy is always, it's a very fine game, and it's an art in many ways.
Of course, I know, and you've mastered it.
Not really, but what I wanted to say was that, you see, we have done it in the past, so it's nothing new. In the 60s and the 70s, particularly in the 60s, we developed very close relations with China, and at that time, the US and China were very hostile to each other. They did not even recognize, each other, diplomatic. They didn't have diplomatic relations. So if we were able to keep a fine balance, so to speak, then, so then it shouldn't be okay. It's not going to be easy, but it's not impossible. Then, that's my point. And in diplomacy, these situations keep on arising because after in the 70s, actually, what we did was we turned a challenge into an opportunity.
Of course.
Because in 70s, we helped China and the US, come closer and establish diplomatic relations. Pakistan was a prime facilitator in that. So I think in the future as well, what Donald Lu said and what you've quoted as well, if we just say, we are the future. Okay, if this is the intention, that this is positive. Because we have said time and again that there's nothing exclusive about sort of, investment opportunities in Pakistan. China has never said that we should have exclusive rights of investment in Pakistan. They've never said that. In fact, in many instances, they have welcomed, like investment coming from other countries, because actually, if the investment comes from different
it's
quarters,
a win-win situation for all.
for everyone, because it helps. If there would be more investment from Western countries to Pakistan, then the Chinese investment in Pakistan would also become more fruitful. So investments actually they have this habit of mutually strengthening or mutually augmenting each other. So I don't think the Chinese have any problem with that. In fact, they have sort of been in the parleys, and I've been part of that. I was in China in 2022 with the Prime Minister. I was part of the Prime Minister's delegation, and I was in the meetings, all the important meetings there. And I know that, there's nothing like people think that, the Chinese would want Pakistan to just sort of, cut off from all the Western world, and nothing at all.
All right.
In fact, the Chinese encourage Pakistan to do whatever is required for our economic growth, for our sort of, for our development, and they encourage us to build more and more linkages.
All right, wonderful. Dr. Fazlur Rehman, coming to you. China has always remained a steadfast partner for Pakistan in the good and the bad times. We have a huge opportunity to work together in the form of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is the highlight of the Belt and Road Initiative. Then, of course, we've had the different visits that have been happening, whether it be of our Deputy Prime Minister or our Prime Minister, and the resolves by both the government to work together not only for strengthening the second phase of CPEC, but also work in other domains, as has been highlighted time and again. In your point of view, what is the future of Pakistan-China relations, putting aside Pakistan-US, because I know that you understand Pak-China relations more, but what do you see as the future of Pak-China relations? Is it going to be an exclusive partnership, or as our esteemed guest Jauhar Saleem Sahab has pointed out, that China will also welcome other countries to join in the fray, to join in the progress of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor?
No, I absolutely agree with Jauhar Saleem Sahab that China and Pakistan have agreed that, in CPEC projects we can include a third party. And I think this is about time when the things are moving, into the second phase, where Pakistan is seeking foreign direct investment in special economic zones, in agricultural sector, in mining and minerals. I think this is a high time that Pakistan should pursue a policy in which we should include the third parties and try to create sort of more joint ventures. And it will not only enhance the volume of investment in Pakistan, but at the same time, it will give a more acceptable outlook to CPEC as well, and it will create, other regional linkages and encourage other regional powers to come and invest in Pakistan. So I think that Pakistan-China economic relations and Pakistan-China relations in terms of CPEC are promising. China has time and again, reiterated its position on supporting Pakistan's economic recovery, supporting Pakistan, strengthening economically, and at the same time they are willing to invest in Pakistan, but then there are certain enabling conditions for which we are responsible to create. And I think we should do our bit in terms of providing security to the Chinese nationals in Pakistan, Chinese projects in Pakistan, and try to create more stable environment for Chinese investors. And I think perhaps in the phase 2 there's going to be, kind of a not entirely new model, but I think that, business-to-business relations and private-public partnerships and encouraging, small and medium-sized industries, industrial growth in Pakistan would be perhaps, the focus of, Chinese investors in Pakistan. I've been engaging.
It's going to be very bright as far as Pakistan-China relations are concerned. The future is extremely bright. But we also want to see a bright Pak-US relation in parallel, and how it moves forward is something that could be beneficial for both Pakistan, the US and China as well. Thank you very much, Dr. Fazlur Rehman Saab, to have joined us all the way from a foreign country to discuss this tangent of relations between Pakistan, China and Pakistan, US. Yes, let's now begin with our second segment. Ambassador Jauhar Saleem continues to join us for the second segment, and we have also been joined by another guest for this second segment. And our second story is on the situation in Gaza. There is the situation in Palestine, and of course today we enter day 294 of that. We all know that Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, is in the US. He has addressed the US Congress, the joint sitting. He has also met with Kamala Harris. He has met with Joe Biden. And of course there has been pressures from both the US leaders in order to for the ceasefire to happen. But the fact remains that even despite Netanyahu being in the US, his tone during the joint address to the Congress was not very helpful as far as some kind of a solution to the issue is concerned. Secondly, the protests and the number of protests that have been happening also were completely dissed by Netanyahu even during the address, despite the fact that there were around 96 Democratic lawmakers who did not attend this joint Congress sitting of Netanyahu, this address to the joint sitting of the Congress by Netanyahu. This and more are going to be discussed in our second segment. Our guests are Jauhar Saleem Saab, who is of course the president of IRS and a former foreign secretary, but we've also been joined by our brother Nader Alturk. He is a deputy head of the Palestinian embassy in Islamabad. Thank you very much, Brother Nader, to have joined us and to be part of this show, because nothing is better than an official statement of what Palestine is saying and what Palestine is doing and what Palestine thinks. I'll begin with you. Israeli Prime Minister gives an address to the Congress, sketches a vague outline for a plan of a de-radicalized post-war Gaza, and of course touts a potential future alliance between Israel and certain other Arab allies. Many dozens of lawmakers boycott his address. Thousands protest outside. Netanyahu dismisses criticism of an Israeli campaign that has devastated Gaza and killed more than 39,000 people as we speak. What impact, if any, did the speech have?
Assalamu alaikum. First of all, thanks a lot for giving me the opportunity to be your guest again tonight with you. And for the speech from Palestinian officials, it's not better than the Pakistani official actually. Yani you support, you appreciate it. The speech of Pakistani official, it is completely stand with Palestine and strong with Palestine. And their speech even was sometimes better than many of other countries. So we appreciate your support. For what happening actually, Netanyahu came to the Congress as a hero for them, as American hero. Maybe I think that George Washington came back from him, grave to speak to Americans, ummah, okay, about his, efforts, what he do for create United States of America. According to that, they welcome him strongly, lovely, okay, which was really extremely strange. His speech was full of lies, historical, religious lies, geographic lies, and he came with a propaganda that he is looking for getting a new NATO in the region against all the others countries who are against democracy. And I can't understand what kind of democracy of Israelis when he is actually guilty in 4 cases, waiting for be decided by the court, Israeli court, and most of the people are protesting in the streets in Tel Aviv and other areas under his control.
And that includes a lot of number of Jews who are also protesting against.
And even out of Congress, there is many of Jews protesting against him, and on the other hand, the families of the prisoners between the Palestinian fighters was inside the Congress meeting wearing T-shirt written, "Make the deal to release our dears," and they was arrested by the guards and taking them out of the meeting of the Congress. And he came to present the Jew, as he said. On the other hand, Jews are against him outside, and even in the streets in Tel Aviv, and even many of the high officials of the Jew in the Congress and the senators like Sanders, he don't came to listen to him, which means I don't know who is representing actually. He's not representing the Jew, not representing the democracy, he's not representing the civilized people. So he came as a criminal like our congressman, Palestinian congressman Tlaib. She mentioned in two sides of her, handed in her hand, that he is guilty as in genocide and he is a criminal, a war criminal. So that is Netanyahu, and I think all the supporters of Netanyahu was clapping and welcome him as a hero are actually criminal like him, and all of them are not representing the Jew, are not representing even the real Americans, because the real Americans, the real Democrat, the real civilized people was out there protesting against Netanyahu, against all the supporters of Netanyahu.
All right. Jauhar Saleem Saab, let's come to the meetings that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris had with Netanyahu. And both have told, especially Kamala Harris, because that was in all the major media outlets, it was time to get this deal done regarding a ceasefire in Gaza. A lot of people are saying that Netanyahu is nothing new to offer as far as the ceasefire deal is concerned, and he has gone to the US with nothing new as far as this ceasefire deal is concerned. We all know about the three-phase deal that Joe Biden proposed, a 6-week ceasefire, permanent facilities, and reconstruction of Gaza and return of the captives. Do you feel there are any expectations this time for this ceasefire deal to happen? Is there enough pressure on Netanyahu by Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, or do you feel that this pressure is but superficial?
I think it's not just because of this pressure that Biden has generated over some time in recent weeks. It was in Israel's interest as well, because at home Netanyahu is facing a lot of pressure. There had been very massive protests there, and the families of those hostages, they are also mounting a lot of political pressure, directly and indirectly, and then the global. The international public opinion pressure, what happened in the ICJ, what happened in the United Nations Security Council.
The ICC, how should we forget that?
And the ICC, of course, definitely. So with all that, and the fact that there's a limit to everything, the carnage that we've seen there, the death toll now is crossed 39,000.
Which continues to happen even as we speak.
Exactly. So I think that in terms of the total impact, and also, then we have to realize that militarily, Netanyahu understands that there's only so much they can do, short of just, trying to kill everyone there. So things have come to a point where the negotiations which are taking place for the temporary ceasefire, the three-phased agreement you've talked about, those are close to fruition.
Right.
I think there have been multiple statements. Even recently, like if you talk about the last couple of days, there have been 3 statements. One is President Biden's statement on that. The second one is Matthew Miller's statement on that. The third one is John Kirby's statement on that. And all the statements echo the same sentiment, that it's very close. And as per the experts, the framework agreement in terms of an understanding has been perhaps arrived at. Now the problem is with the implementation of that, and there are many obstacles, because the details, as I say, the devil is in the details, and that is what they're trying to thrash out. So and that is why we have seen an intensifying of the Israeli strikes there, because they want to use this period to inflict maximum damage, and in their own words, on the leadership of Hamas. So So I would not be surprised that, if in the coming weeks, we would see a temporary ceasefire at least.
Okay.
Not because of humanitarian reason or compassionate reason, but because of political reasons.
All right.
That all this pressure that I've mentioned, and in the U.S., the election is now drawing very close, and the Democrats know very well that this issue is really hurting them, and that is what you've seen, Kamala. And by the way, it's very interesting because I've seen President Biden, pronouncing her name Kamala, and others, everybody in America is Kamala. She is Kamala because it's an Indian name.
Of
basically,
course.
Kamala Devi is like a very sort of common name in India. And Trump is making a point to pronounce it so to sort of perhaps to kind of like underline her,
to push down the fact that she has origins
exactly
from
elsewhere. But the point is, we noticed 2 or 3 things. First, although she's technically the president of the Senate, and she should have been there at that joint speech of the Congress, the joint address of the Congress, but she was not there. And the excuse was that she already had a prior commitment. And what was that prior commitment? That she was addressing a sorority. The sororities you have in American university. Now that cannot be an important commitment. So it was very clear that she deliberately stayed out. So did, as our friend, our brother here mentioned, Bernie Sanders came up with a very strong critical statement. But there's like dozens and dozens of other members who didn't turn out.
96 to be exact.
Exactly. And so that is there. Within the US, there is a divide on that issue, despite the fact that there is a bipartisan support for Israel. But like Kamala, what she has said, which is very interesting, she said, okay, we understand the objective of it, but we have we have problems with how they are conducting it. That's what she has come up with in a very recent statement. So she is taking a very nuanced position on that because the election outcome, amongst
it's
other
very
things,
important for them, and whatever
that.
they do before the elections or till the elections come will also be important as far as the voter perspective vis-a-vis the Democrats or the Republicans is concerned.
Exactly.
Brother Nader Alturk, 14 factions of Palestinians have signed a declaration in Beijing. It's a very important declaration. First time that all the factions have come together and have agreed upon all the different points, whether it be the creation of a Palestinian state on lands Israel captured in the 1967 war, a new Palestinian National Council that is going to be formed, national unity government composed of leaders from all 14 Palestinian factions, and interim national unity government, of course, which all of them have agreed on. How important are these points, and do you feel that all the factions will continue to stay on for this declaration? Because we have seen previous declarations in 2011 and after that one as well, where there was a declaration but the factions did not adhere to it. How important is it for all factions to remain united in order to show a sign of strength in front of Israel, that you see all of Palestinians are on one page and Israel is on another?
First of all, this agreement, not the first. We have several agreements before, but sadly we didn't succeed to activate it. But this time, most of our people are waiting, and most of us are optimistic that this time this is going to be run on and going to be succeed to be activated on the ground. Because it is very important to organize the Palestinians' house to be united against our enemy, because it is very clear right now that the Israelis plan, it is not against Hamas, not against Fatah, not against PLO, it is against all the Palestinians stay on the Palestinians' land. Because as I mentioned before several times in your honorable program, that Israel's plan is to transfer all the Palestinians out of Palestine. So each Palestinian is in danger. So if we are not united now, when are we going to be? We appreciate the Chinese for their hard work in that issue. We hope they are succeed in facilitate agreement between Iran and Saudi Arabia. They are right now facilitate agreement between the differences between the Palestinian political parties. This is going to make us stronger. And they are running, actually in that agreement was many new principles which making, like acting program for all our political positions. That negotiation, peace process, and the other hand, freedom fighters. This is activate both. According to international resolution, international law, activate, working with 181 resolution, 233 resolution, which speak about illegal settlements in the Palestinian territories. Third, right of return of Palestinian refugees according to 194 resolution, and they welcome and and appreciate and give respect for the Palestinian fighters in Gaza, all the political groups, and this is mean that that meeting was wise enough to give a clear plan and clean process for our act in the international society in the future, that we will use as occupied people, have the right to defend themselves with all the ways they have between their hands, even by military or armed activities according to international law. We are having, as our ex-president, may Allah bless his soul, Yasser Arafat said in the United Nations 1974, I came to you holding in one hand the whipping of the freedom fighter, and the other hand I have the branch of urdupoetry, which is as a symbol for peace. For please don't break and let the olive branch fell down from my hands. So don't leave, which other words, don't leave the whipping is the only option for me to get our freedom or independence. So again, we are in the same page as the Palestinian political parties, that we have the two options between our hands, and we are waiting wise leaders from the other side, from Israeli side, which is for sure not Netanyahu and his government, and we are waiting for wise leaders from American side, European sides, who are supporting the olive green branch, not the whipping side. So this is what we are waiting for. We are ready for both, and we are ready to be independent because we have the right of self-determination according to international law. We have the right to have our own independent state, which is typical, it is capital, and we need only the wise leaders of the world to support the right, support the international law, and being wise enough to recognize Israelis' crimes as crimes, criminal crimes against war crimes, and give independence, support, and be in the right side of the history. This is what we are waiting for.
All right. I think we'll end this segment on this because wiser words couldn't have been said. Better wiser words couldn't have been said. Thank you very much, Brother Nader Alturk. Thank you very much.
Just one word, please.
Yes.
As Netanyahu, today I read an article made by many of Jewish leaders, statement from them, that Netanyahu is the worst Jew leader since 2000 years until now.
All right. So
thank you very much.
That statement has also been made now through you, and it's now on our screens. Thank you very much, Brother Nader. Thank you very much, Sir Jauhar Saleem, to have joined us. Ladies and gentlemen, let's come to our last three stories very, very quickly. Humanity is suffering from an extreme heat epidemic. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has warned, and he says that action needs to be done to limit the impacts of heat waves intensified by climate change. And we all know the effects of climate change and how they have been affecting the world. Pakistan is one prime example. Next Olympics this year, 2024, are to begin in a couple of hours. The opening ceremony, of course, is to begin in Paris in a couple of hours' time. And of course, a lot of people are excited because the world is getting together. At least the sporting world is getting together. Pakistan is also being represented in that, including javelin thrower Arshad Nadeem. Finally, today is the death anniversary of ibn-e-safi that is being observed. Ibn-e-safi, if you have been in Pakistan and as a young adult have, I'm sure, read the Imran series or have read Jasusi Dunia, he was the writer of that, and we've all had an adolescence, thinking and dreaming in that world that he had created. He was born on the 26th of July 1928 in Allahabad district. His family migrated to Karachi. Then he started his own publication, and then of of course, we all know about the 125 book series Jasusi Dunya and the 120 book Imran series. He passed away on this very day in 1980 in Karachi, and his work lives on. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. It's Friday, so have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you inshallah on Monday with new stories and segments that pertain to you, us and Pakistan. Allah Hafiz.